Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News. Thank you all for continuing to come over to the new channel and subscribe. If you are not aware, I'm moving my entire channel over to a new channel called Black Bear News. The link is below in the description box. Please come subscribe to that channel because very soon I will not be posting videos to this channel in this format. I may post videos to this channel, but probably it will be like different stuff. Excuse me. Interesting. I just wanted to address, I guess, a comment somebody left today on this channel, and then also something I saw elsewhere on another channel that people kind of referring to me as a conspiracy theorist, and that's which I find funny because climate deniers come to this channel and call me a conspiracy theorist. So, so there you go. I can't win for losing. You know, if you believe that all conspiracies are false, you're not thinking. If you believe that all conspiracies are true or everything is a conspiracy, you're not thinking. This is the danger that we are in these days and times, is that people get into these pools of thought and these schools of thought and these, you know, again, I'll call them ghettos of thought, neighborhoods of thought, where people, it's like you don't go outside. You cannot go outside this area because it means that you align with the enemy, or you're crazy, or you're one of them, or whatever that means. And it's like, guys, stop the insanity. We are really in a time when we need to be thinking, aware, enlightened human beings. We are becoming scared. I'm trying to find a word and I cannot find it, but we're becoming very closed off, very cloistered, very, you know, clannish. We're taking upon ourselves ways of thinking that are dulling our senses and that are keeping us less aware. We're not thinking. We're not open to ideas and to other ways of thought. This is exactly what we don't need right now. I'll say it again, and I've said it before, and to just beat the hell out of this drum, I started this channel in order to welcome open minds and to open minds, if possible, to thinking about other things that are outside of what people normally might think about. And it's, the effect is kind of what I expected. I mean, there are very open-minded people here. There are deep thinkers here. There are deeply intellectual beings on this channel, and I really, really appreciate that. If you don't agree with everything I have to say, good. That means, you know, you've got your own mind. That's great. I encourage that. You know, I may not agree with everything somebody else has to say. I just hope that we remain open to each other and remain open to ideas. And the very large danger that is coming at us very quickly, politically and socially, is not allowing somebody else to have certain ideas because we deem those ideas dangerous. That in itself is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do and say to somebody and think. That, you know, for somebody to have some ideas that they might, you know, these ideas might be dangerous. This is a huge weapon that people can wield at each other politically, socially, ideologically, and it is keeping people from thinking. I really urge you to stop doing that and not do that if that is what you're into. Shaming somebody for having an idea. You know, I don't think that every idea is great. I don't think that every idea is wonderful. In some cases, ideas can be dangerous, but it's the actions taken in the defense of an idea that are actually dangerous. You know, and the left is just as dangerous as the right. The United States is just as dangerous as who we deem to be terrorist or communist or whatever. You know, there are all kinds of dangerous ideas in the world. Don't be afraid. We're all adults. We're all big girls and big boys in this world, and it's a scary, scary world. You know, ultimately, peace and love and harmony will reign supreme. You know, that is my highest goal and my highest endeavor in this life. One life that I have, is that, you know, peace and harmony and justice and equality will prevail and reign for all. You know, as difficult as an idea as that might be to achieve, possibly impossible. I do not mean to harm anybody with my ideas, but ideas do harm. That's what happens on some levels. You know, people are people. People are fallible. Societies are fallible. Cultures are fallible. Every culture is fallible on some level. Some more so than others. So, anyways, before I just get off on a long tangent about whatever, just try to have an open mind. If you find yourself confronting an idea that you resist, I mean, I even try to take in information. You know, there's times when I don't want to take in information about something where I'm like, no, that's bullshit. I really, as an exercise, try to allow this idea into my brain so I can, like, you know, look at it and go, can I see the perspective that thinks that this idea is okay? And I understand sometimes it's just a bullshit perspective. Sometimes it's just an idea that's a tool in order to make everybody think that you think something, or you believe something that you don't really believe, or to make other people believe something so that you can, you know, get your nefarious schemes on. That happens all the time. In the pursuit of truth, let us uncover all truths if we can, or let us uncover the truth, however painful. The truth exists outside of our opinions, outside of what we think or what we think we know. The truth is absolute. The truth is over here. And also the truth is within us, and we can make the truth whatever it is we want it to be. You know, humans are very adept at that, and we seem to be getting better and better at that all the time. But the truth, it exists outside of what we think. And we have to humble ourselves in the face of that truth in order to truly know it. I try to remain humble in the face of truth. That is my highest wish for myself and for others in this world. Okay, on to articles. Thank you all for continuing to send me articles. There's just a never-ending stream of things to read, and you all keep me informed, and I thank you. This is from the Boston Globe. After a year of record deaths, right whales produce no new calves, which could be catastrophic. This is pretty damn scary. February 26th, after a year when scientists found a record number of dead North Atlantic right whales, the species has yet to produce a single newborn this calving season. An unprecedented and potentially catastrophic outcome for one of the world's most endangered animals. There are only about 100 adult female right whales left in the world. If any had given birth this season, which typically runs November through February, scientists say they almost surely would have spotted new calves by now. This is the worst case scenario, said Barb Zuidsma, a biologist who oversees the right whale recovery program in the southeast for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This season appears to be a total bomb. You don't have to be a math major to see that things are going in the wrong direction. Let's continue reading. Over the past year, 18 right whales have been found dead, winnowing the population to about 430. At that rate, the species could go extinct by 2040, scientists say, or if they don't have any more babies, maybe sooner than that. It remains possible that the whales could still produce calves this year, but Zuidsma and other scientists aren't optimistic. Just 5 calves were born last season, among the lowest totals recorded. Over the past decade, there have been an average of 18 calves born each year. When you have a high mortality and zero reproduction, it's catastrophic, said Michael Moore, director of the Marine Mammal Center at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. It couldn't be any worse. While the number of adult females have actually increased in recent years, the number of producing calves has fallen significantly. Adult females are giving birth less frequently. On average, they used to produce calves once every 3 years. Now it's more likely once every decade. The best explanation for the decline is that nearly all right whales have been injured by fishing lines, scientists say. In a federal survey of right whale deaths between 2010 and 2014, scientists found that 82% died as a result of entanglements in fishing gear. The rest died as a result of ship strikes. The stress of swimming while entangled in fishing gear, which can gouge whales' blubber, makes it hard for many females to become pregnant. When you're carrying fishing gear while still alive, it takes more energy to swim, Moore said. With too much stress from the entanglement, they don't get pregnant. Jesus Christ. Climate change could also be a factor. The Gulf of Maine has warmed faster than nearly any body of water on the planet, a shift that has affected organisms throughout the ecosystem. In the past decade, scientists have measured an 80% fall in phytoplankton, which sit at the bottom of the marine food web and provide the building blocks of life for nearly all organisms in the ocean. Among those organisms are copepods, tiny crustaceans that right whales have long fed on in the nutrient-rich waters off of New England. Scientists have theorized that copepods have been moving north to the colder Canadian waters, which could explain why more right whales have been turning up there in recent years. You think. Last year, in a surprise to scientists, an unprecedented 12 right whales were found dead in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. We have been blown away by the warming temperatures in the Gulf of Maine, especially at greater depths, said William Balch, a senior research scientist at the Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences in Maine, who has studied areas of the water where the usual temperature has risen from 43 degrees to 50 degrees. It's really striking, and it's going to affect everything from phytoplankton to right whales. The changing temperatures and distribution of right whales could also be changing their birth cycles, giving scientists hope that some of the adult females could still produce calves in the coming months. Scientists said they have recently spotted 8 right whales swimming off Georgia and northern Florida, where they traditionally spawn. Things are changing, and I just hope to high heaven that I'm wrong, Zuidsma said. But at this point, I don't think we're likely to find them. Environmental groups have raised alarms about the dangers to right whales. Say the lack of births so far this season reinforces their arguments that authorities must more aggressively protect the species. They've filed lawsuits against NOAA, urging the agency to do more, and have called on officials to take a range of actions, from requiring that lobstermen use different gear to closing off more areas to fishing. The fact that not a single right whale birth has been recorded this year is a stark and tragic reminder that the status of the right whale population is utterly dire, said Emily Green, an attorney at the Conservation Law Foundation, one of the groups that recently sued NOAA. If these patterns continue unabated, the population is on a fast track to extinction. Oh, that is terrible, terrible news. This is from The Guardian, picking up in the plastic news from yesterday. It's from December 26th. $180 billion investment in plastic factories feeds global packaging binge. Colossal funding in manufacturing plants by fossil fuel companies will increase plastic production by 40%, risking permanent pollution of the earth. Risking. Just when we knew that we needed to have less plastic in our lives, we get a 40% increase. Sounds about right. The global plastic binge, which is already causing widespread damage to oceans, habitats, and food chains, is set to increase dramatically over the next 10 years after multi-billion-dollar investments in a new generation of plastic plants in the U.S. Fossil fuel companies are among those who have plowed more than $180 billion since 2010 into new cracking facilities. I just like to say the word cracking. Facilities that will produce the raw material for everyday plastics, from packaging to bottles, trays, and cartons. The new facilities being built by corporations like ExxonMobil Chemical and Shell Chemical will help fuel a 40% rise in plastic production in the next decade. Yay. According to experts, exacerbating the plastic pollution crisis, the scientists warn already risks near permanent pollution of the earth. We could be locking in decades of expanded plastics production at precisely the time the world is realizing we should use far less of it, said Carol Muffett, president of the U.S. Center of International Environmental Law, which has analyzed the plastic industry. All right, glad you guys are on top of it. Around 99% of the feedstock for plastics is fossil fuels. So we are looking at the same companies like Exxon and Shell that have helped create the climate crisis. There is a deep and pervasive relationship between oil and gas companies and plastics. Greenpeace UK's senior oceans campaigner, Louise Edge, said any increase in the amount of plastic ending up in the oceans would have a disastrous impact. Get ready for an increase. We are already producing more disposable plastic than we could deal with, more in the last decade than in the entire 20th century, and millions of tons of it are ending up in our oceans. The huge investment in plastic production has been driven by the shale gas boom in the U.S. This has resulted in one of the raw materials used to produce plastic resin, natural gas liquids, dropping dramatically in price. Well, all right, take advantage. The American Chemistry Council says that since 2010, this has led to $186 million being invested in 318 new projects. Almost half of them are already under construction and have been completed. The rest are at the planning stage. I can summarize the boom in plastics facilities in 2 words. Kevin Swift, chief economist at the ACC, told The Guardian: shale gas. He added, there has been a revolution in the U.S. with the shale gas technologies, with the fracking, with the horizontal drilling. The cost of our raw material base has gone down by roughly 2/3. The findings came amid growing concern about the scale of plastics pollution around the world. Earlier this year, scientists have warned that it risked near permanent contamination of the planet, and at a UN Environment Conference in Kenya this month, the scale of plastic in the sea was described as an ocean Armageddon. In June, a Guardian investigation revealed that 1 million plastic bottles are bought around the world every minute, with most ending up in a landfill or the sea. Earlier this month, UK Environment Secretary Michael Gove said reducing plastic pollution was the key focus, adding that he had been haunted by images of the damage being done from David Attenborough's Blue Planet 2 TV series. However, campaigners warned that despite the rising tide of concern, powerful corporations are pressing ahead with a new generation of plastic production facilities that will swamp efforts to move the global economy away from the single-use, throwaway plastic products. Stephen Feit from the Center, that's a good name, Stephen Feit, from the Center for Environmental International Law, which has been researched which has researched the impact of the U.S. shale boom on plastics, said, "The link between the shale gas boom in the United States and the ongoing and accelerating global plastics crisis cannot be ignored." But it will be. In the U.S., fossil fuel and petrochemical companies are investing hundreds of billions of dollars to expand plastic production capacity. All this build-out, if allowed to proceed, will flood the global market with even more disposable and manageable plastic for decades to come. Although the majority of the new investment is in the U.S., the impacts will ripple outward in the form of vast new supplies of raw materials for plastics being transported to Europe and China. Petrochemical giant INEOS has been shipping natural gas liquids from the U.S. to cracking plants in Europe and the U.K. on huge Dragon ships for the past year. Last month, the company announced it will ship the first NGLs from the U.S. to China in 2019, where it will be turned into plastic resin at the new cracking facility in Taixing, China. Roland Geyer from the University of California at Santa Barbara was the lead author of a study earlier this year revealing that humans have produced 8.3 billion tons of plastic since the 1950s, with the majority ending up in landfill or polluting the world's oceans and continents. The report warned that plastic, which does not degrade for hundreds of years, risked near permanent contamination of the earth. He said he was deeply troubled by the expansion in plastic production. "I am now all but convinced that the plastic waste pollution problem will remain unmanageable without serious source reduction efforts," he told The Guardian. "Building out production capacity is obviously the opposite of source reduction. But experts believe the new facilities will lock in an increase in plastic production for years to come." Matthew Tholk, executive director at the IHS Market Analysts in Germany and an expert in the global chemical industry, said the expansion in the U.S. would be a critical part of a 40% increase in global plastics production over the next decade. This will help meet growing demand for plastic in the existing big markets of U.S., Europe, and China, as well as predicted steep increase in demand in India and Southeast Asia, he said. But the American Chemistry Council said the plastics boom had brought huge economic benefits to the U.S., creating hundreds of thousands of jobs and allowing the manufacturer of a wide range of important products from medical supplies to auto parts, piping to technology. These are very important. Steve Russell, vice president of plastics for the American Chemistry Council, also defended the environmental impact of plastic, citing a study from 2016 that found using plastic reduces environmental damage. What? Citing a study from 2016 that found using plastic reduces environmental damage. Is that so? He's the vice president of plastics. All right. Advanced plastics enable us to do more with less in almost every facet of life and commerce, from reducing packaging to driving lighter cars to living in more fuel-efficient homes. Plastics help us reduce energy use, carbon emissions, and waste. Thanks, Steve. Since you're here, okay, that's the end of that article. Let's see. Ooh, I really want to read this article, but I am not, because it's long. I'm going to read this article tomorrow. I think I'm going to save this for tomorrow. Just a little political social commentary that I found very, very good. So here's a little dose of happy news. Opium drops in the bucket against the tide of destruction. California court ruling ends decades of state pesticide spraying. This is from EcoWatch. Or no, Center for Biological Diversity, February 26th. A judge has ordered the California Department of Food and Agriculture to stop using chemical pesticides in its statewide program until the agency complies with state environmental laws. The injunction, issued last week, is a sweeping victory for 11 public health, conservation, citizen, and food safety groups and the city of Berkeley. Those dang lefties. The coalition sued the state after unsuccessfully attempting for years to persuade the agency to shift to a sustainable approach to pest control that protects human health and the environment. Despite thousands of comment letters urging the department to take a safer approach, officials in 2014 approved a program that gave them broad license to spray 79 pesticides, some known to cause cancer and birth defects, anywhere in the state, including schools, organic farms, public parks, and residential yards. Spraying was allowed indefinitely and required no analysis of the health and environmental impacts of the chemicals at the specific application sites and no public notice or scrutiny of treatment decisions. Many of the pesticides are also highly toxic to bees, butterflies, fish, and birds. Oh, remember that we have a Democratic majority here in California. So they're totally co-signing this. The injunction follows a January 8 ruling by Judge Timothy M. Frawley, voiding approval of the agency's statewide program for numerous violations of state environmental laws, including relying on unsupported assumptions and speculation to conclude that pesticides would not contaminate water bodies. The ruling also cited the state's woefully deficient analysis of the cumulative danger of increasing the more than 150 million pounds of pesticides already being used in California each year. The court process culminating revealed not only far-reaching flaws in the state's analysis of the environmental harm caused by the department's pesticide use, but also the agency's decades-long history of evading disclosure of the human health and environmental impacts of its activities by granting itself repeated emergency exemptions from environmental laws. After more than 30 years of disregard for the state environmental laws, the agency's chemical weapons have finally been taken off the table, said Nan Wishner of the California Environmental Health Initiative. We hope the department will take this opportunity to shift course and apply sound science, partner with the public, and develop more sustainable, transparent approach. The court also held that the agency had to give public notice of its activities, which officials had insisted was not required. The court rejected the agency's blank check to spray people's yards, exposing children and pets to a range of pesticides that can cause serious long-term problems, including cancer, asthma, and IQ loss, said Debbie Friedman, founder of Moms Advocating Sustainability. If only the $4.5 million in taxpayer, 4.5 million, they said 4.5 million in taxpayer dollars used to develop this outdated program have been spent to develop a modern, sustainable approach that does not rely on toxic chemicals, just imagine what progress we could have made towards a healthier environment for everyone. Now California must ensure these pesticides aren't harming our water supplies and imperiled species like salmon, said Jonathan Evans, environmental health and legal director at the Center for Biological Diversity. This ruling affirms that people should have a voice in pesticide use in their neighborhoods. The state's attorney told the court that the Department of Food and Agriculture had already carried out more than 1,000 pesticide treatments since the program was approved in 2014. Program pesticides include these dangerous chemicals: chlorpyrifos, known to cause brain damage in children and to threaten 97% of endangered wildlife. Oh man, neonicotinoid pesticides that are highly toxic to pollinators like bees, aquatic invertebrates like crustaceans, mollusks. Oh my. The toxic fumigant, methylbromide, which depletes the protective ozone layer. The chemical warfare agent chloropicrin, which causes genetic damage. The judge has told the state that harmful pesticides simply can't be sprayed indiscriminately without robust consideration of impacts on people's, animals, and water, said Bill Ayoud, California Director of Government Affairs for the Environmental Working Group. The ruling also affirms that Californians have the right to know about pesticides being sprayed around them and the ability to challenge spraying that endangers public health and natural resources. The suit was brought by the City of Berkeley, the Center for Biological Diversity, Environmental Working Group, California Environmental Health Initiative, Moms Advocating Sustainability, Center for Food Safety, Pesticide Action Network North America, Center for Environmental Health, Environmental Action Committee of West Marin, Beyond Pesticides, Californians for Pesticide Reform, and Safe Alternatives for Our Forest Environment. All right. Yep. Who knows? Maybe this will lead to something um, actually significant in the long run. I'm hoping. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Hope to be back tomorrow with another video. Until then, peace.